Alicia is on her own, trapped inside the hotel tower and surrounded by walkers. She's looking for Ofilia and her mom, but comes across someone else instead. Meanwhile, Travis and Chris get to have a little bonding time. Though the lessons Travis is trying to teach, Chris isn't necessarily hearing. We all have to deal with the consequences of our actions. On this week's episode of Fear the Walking Dead, Season 2, Episode 10, Do Not Disturb. Hey everyone, D here, and there are spoilers ahead, just so you've been warned. Alright, so like I said, this episode we are dealing with consequences. The consequences of our actions and the consequences of our choices. And first off, again, we have Elena, the hotel manager who is dealing with the consequences of locking the wedding party into the ballroom just as Dad starts to turn and attack his daughter and the rest of the wedding party. Now, it would be bad enough if everyone had died. But unfortunately, or fortunately, several of them survived, and they're none too happy with Elena. They currently have her nephew, Hector. And while the weight of this starts to crush down and really break apart Elena, it's Alicia that steps forward and really explains to her the position of survival now. And the great line, "I've done worse and I've seen worse." Choices we all have to make in this, they are bad, but we have to learn to work with them, to live with them, and move forward. It is about focusing on family. For Elena, it's focusing on getting her nephew back. For Alicia, it's focusing on getting back to her mom and Strand and Ofilia. And at the same time, we also have Travis and Chris. It was the first time that we get to check in with them since the big mid-season finale. They're out on their own as well, trying to reconnect, and Travis really trying to teach some lessons for moving forward. And they may have some potential there, at least until they run into Brandon and the rest of the Spring Breakers, dude, who have a very different approach towards dealing with the world, a very different way of looking at things. And it's going to put them in a bad position. It's going to make Chris make some bad choices and put Travis in the position of trying to back up his son, or maybe having to turn and walk away. Now, Alicia may be becoming one of my favorite characters in the show right now. I wasn't really so sure when the opening of the series, but as she starts to develop, really being very interesting. The whole opening bit that they have with her in this episode, where she's staring through the spy hole and counting the number of walkers that are coming through, that are walking past. That is beautiful. Again, this is learning. It's the illustration of these learning techniques. Again, when we deal with The Walking Dead, that's been years. Everybody knows how to deal with stuff. For here, it's really focusing on the new lessons, learning all of this. And I love that just initial push. And then how she pulls her hair back and makes sure everything all clean and setting together before heading out into the walkers. Really starting to adapt to the world that she's in. And when she runs into Elena, again, you've got those standard kind of cautionary, let's check things out. But of course, Elena's got the keys to everything. And Alicia's very smart at figuring out that Elena's the one that's been locking all of the walkers in the room. And then, of course, we figure out how that ends up working, which was, I think, one of the best sequences, one of the nicer sequences inside the episode. And like I said, these are the things that I like to watch. How they are pulling the walkers out, beckoning. One goes in the room, the other one pulls them back, gets into the room, and then locks behind. Nice harrowing scene on the balcony right there. I was trying to figure out how they were going to do that. Were all the balconies linked together so she could just jump over? But no, a little bit more like throwing the bedsheet around, tying it off, being sure that we've got a nice handhold to going around. A bit of a jump scare as the walkers busted through the window like that. But again, all still a really nicely done sequence. And we get to see a little bit more into Elena. As an employee, she's very dedicated with her work. And I'm all about dedicated with being work, but you've got to be able to draw the line. Again, that whole early bit where she decides to just quickly lock everyone in the room to try and contain this outbreak before help can come. Not trying to get anybody else, not clearing out people that haven't been bitten yet or aren't involved. She just immediately went and turned and locked them up. And of course, throughout this, she's having to deal with those consequences because the survivors, led by the mom, very surprised that she's the one that survived. All, I think, just really nice sequences, just some good bonding, and a lot of really Alicia stepping up, really taking the reins and being strong. Maddie was sort of falling back in the last episode, really as the weight of everything and the loss of Nick have hit her. And Alicia's turned and kind of stepped up. And I think this episode did a great job of kind of continuing that point of view of her really just being strong, seeing the way that things are now and focusing on what is important, having to get down, get to mom, do all of that. When they finally did get Hector, and we did the exchange because she told Elena, it's all about getting Hector, give her the keys, get Hector, go. How she turned and just opened the door and let the walkers loose. One, she had to go in and check and make sure that her mom wasn't in there. And I like the nice little moment there where you've got the, is that Maddie, is it not Maddie Walker? Because she's still got the plaid and everything on and blonde. Pretty convenient, but still a nice moment. And then the move through the lower tunnels and everything there. Again, good having Elena, someone who knows the hotel inn, and the final meetup. It was just, I like the fact that at least they cleared that out. We still don't know where Ofilia is, and that kind of bothers me, because again, how far could she have gone? Where'd she go? I mean, I don't think she's dead, because if we don't see people die, they're not dead. If we haven't seen their heart stop, the life go out of the body, them being shot through the head, they're not dead. So we know Ofilia is still out there, but where did she go? Especially considering that Alicia is still kind of trapped and needs help in order just to get around, just to get off of that floor from Elena. So I don't know how far Ofilia could have gone, and I hope they give a very good explanation of what happened to her. But at the very least, she, Alicia and Elena and little Hector are now bonded up with Maddie and Strand. We've got the formations of the group getting back together again. So good position to end the episode. I'm glad they didn't drag that out, that we now have a better starting place to move forward. But I think all the really big motions in this episode really happened with Travis and Chris. One, we haven't seen them yet, so we've got sort of the catch up from the past couple episodes to see what it is that they have been doing. But really in the opening sequences, they do a great job of showing their little bonding, how Chris is concerned about his father, really putting the humanity back into Chris that last we saw, we weren't too sure of. You know, he was holding kids hostage, making bad decisions. So this was really nice to kind of see those moments where Chris is concerned about his father. Do we need to rest? Do you need to sit down? We should get some food. That was all great. And a lot of throughout this, Travis really steps forward to try and teach lessons, even when they run into the car and he tries to hotwire it and telling Chris, you should pay attention to this. These are lessons that we need to learn. Travis believes, of course, that the world's going to come back, but not immediately. It'll be down the road, but these are still skills just to learn, just to get by until whoever's out there to fix things gets their job along. We know that that's not happening, but it's good that Travis has that viewpoint. At least he has a strong view. Chris, on the other hand, is still, I mean, he's young. He's ready to kind of take things on. Wants to go, I mean, he wants to prove himself, and that's good. And he does have a good point at the very beginning, is they need to be able to work independently as well. So Travis going, or Chris is going to check out the little taco place and get some food. Fine. Until he runs into Brandon and the other guys and the walkers. Now he is able to get food, and it is nice that he's able to illustrate that he's still quick and still is able to handle walkers. And I like the fact that he just left. He didn't try to deal with more walkers than he had to, and he didn't really try to deal with the people. But he got back. We need to get in the car and go because we don't know what to deal with. And the moments even by the fire with their discussions of what are the plans. And that's, again, another very valid point. People are moving around a lot without a whole lot of plan. This is kind of the first, I think, where we have someone expressing that they are starting to plan what we need to do. We need to find a place high. We need to find a place where elevation so we can see who's coming at us. We need to find a place with water. These are at least plans. And also pointing out the problems with Chris's plans. Chris wants to get back to the border. Hey, there's people, there's things. Yeah, and there's water. But like any watering hole out in nature, it brings the predators and it brings the prey all together into one spot. So I really enjoyed Travis's approach, really spending time to try and teach Chris lessons that he needs to survive. But unfortunately, of course, we do have, the Brandon bros that come out and sort of disrupt all of that. The feeling straight off the bat is you cannot trust these people. It's generally a good approach out there, which surprised me when Travis was really ready to sort of step out of the bushes and reveal himself. I thought that was kind of a little bit quick. But it does start to illustrate 2 points of view. Travis trying to be the educated, the adult, looking at things from a bigger picture in survival, where we have Brandon speaking with him in the back of the truck as they leave the next morning, that there's no cops, there's no speed limit, that the apocalypse has made us gods. That's the easiest way to get killed in this world. The minute you started to look yourself that you were above everyone, that's when it all goes down. So I don't really have a good feeling of these guys. Definitely not safe. And of course that still comes to the head later on when we get to the farm. And Travis is seeing this, of course, as this is a perfect place. This is exactly what we're talking about. It has a well, it has crops, it's protection, it's wide open space so we can see what's coming. But of course there's still someone else living there. And so we have the big final little conflict. And the big moment there is when Chris reaches out to grab his father's hand to pick him up, and Travis does not take it. This is the schism. This is the schism that is going on with them. It is not so much that that Chris is just dangerous. It's he's unpredictable. I mean, even the discussion they had when they were at the fireplace, when they were camping out, when Chris says, hey, we need people. And Travis points out, we had people. Again, we had people, but we had to leave because you were being all psycho. And what does he do at the end of the episode? He steps back into psycho land. This is Travis saying, am I going to be able to teach my kid? Am I going to be able to protect him? Is he on a road that I can't support and that I can't follow? And that is going to be really the big next couple of steps between Travis and Chris. Is their relationship actually something that can be saved, that can be built on? Or are they really heading in two directions? And is Travis only putting himself further in danger, not to protect Chris, but just going to be in the way? All right, and just a couple other little observations and points. One, the flashing lights in the hotel, the flashing emergency lights. Okay, it's only been a couple of weeks, but it has been a couple of weeks. How long do the batteries on those things work? Because the power's been out for a while. They ain't getting recharged. And if they're going off all the time or every night, let's just say every night because we didn't see them going off before. I don't know. I didn't think they'd be lasting that long. Well, and the big elevator scene with Alicia. Okay, stimulating, exciting. Not really sure if maybe while you're being chased with walkers, trying to pry open an elevator is the best choice. Also, and I know it's a big thing used in movies, but realistically, those cables are all covered in grease. You're not going to jump and grab on. You jump and slip right back down. So that's also not good. Also, there was just kind of a bad moment right there where the walkers are reaching towards them and they're like grabbing the sides just so they could lean forward a little bit further and a little bit further. They're walkers. They're undead. They're not going to do that. They're just going to reach out and that's going to be it. So just a small little point there. Oh, Brandon and the boys. Okay, one thing they do positively bring, they set up alarms. They set up the cans all around. So if anybody tries to come close, or creatures or walkers, makes a little can noise. All right, big plus. A little bit of learning going on there. Good choices, guys. Oh, and the graves that were freshly dug on the farm. Now, the freshly dug dirt was the first thing that I noticed, but the death date on all of them, 2010. That's when the apocalypse happened. That's back when Walking Dead did and so on. So we at least get that kind of date moment. I just thought that was kind of a cool little flashback there, a little notation of where we are in time. And lastly, the bodies, the couple that owned the taco stand that Chris first ran into and where he first ran into Brandon and the other boys. When we took a look, when Chris looked over the countertop and saw them on the ground, I don't think those were walkers. I think they were still alive. They were shot in the head, but they didn't look messed up. They didn't look corroded. They didn't have anything like the same look of the walkers that suddenly turned and came in after Chris for a moment like that. So I think the boys might have come in and found the couple, shot them, and were in the middle of robbing them. So that is just a really quick sign of where they are. Was a little hesitant on thinking about it when, at the very end, when the farmer came in, because Brandon didn't really seem ready to shoot so much. Neither of the boys, even when the farmer did shoot, Brandon's reaction was not immediately to fire back. It wasn't that defensive. He was more surprised than anything else. So there was a moment there where I wasn't wondering is how much of the killer instinct, also because they had never talked about how many walkers they had killed. But looking back at that opening sequence, you got two bodies and they're right next to each other in that kind of perfect dead couple look. Bullets in the head, fresh blood pouring out of them. I think that's really a sign of what Travis and Chris are getting themselves into and the type of people that Brandon and his boys are. And the opening wedding sequence. Now, in some ways, this is cool. It establishes Elena's story and lets us know, gets to see a little glimpse into the early moments of the apocalypse and reflects back to the wedding room that we had already seen. But there was a couple of just contrived elements that kind of pulled me out of it. One, the parents talking before and then telling Elena that, the mom telling Elena that we have to go, this sickness is getting bad, they may be closing the border. How do you know that? You weren't on the phone, and of course moments later Elena does try to pick up the phone and the phone isn't working, so that's not very likely. And no one came up to tell you these things. There wasn't somebody coming up and whispering in your ear. So how did you know that information? And second, when the dad had his heart attack. Now we find out later, as Elena mentions, that he did have a heart attack, but in that sequence there is no way for us to know. All we know is mom is talking about the spreading sickness and they may be closing the border, and then suddenly dad on the dance floor and just drops right out. All they needed was someone saying, "Oh my God, he's having a heart attack," or "Somebody get dad's heart medication." Anything to let us know what had actually happened, because otherwise it seems sort of a result of the virus, that it's just affecting old people and causing them to drop down dead. Now that's not how it works and we haven't seen anything like that, but it's a small little thing that really would have left us and go with it. Otherwise it's all seemingly very coincidental of how this happens, and it just deals a lot with the problems that I have with this show on occasionally it setting up sequences to tell an interesting moment, but without getting there logically. So all we needed was a phone call, somebody whispering in the parent's ear beforehand, and then someone mentioning a comment about dad's heart. And I would have been all in on that. Otherwise, there's just, those moments just kind of pull me out. Also, of course, in the zombie apocalypse, mouth to mouth, often a bad idea. Sorry, Dad, but if you're gonna go down, don't want you biting your daughter in the face. All right, so I think that wraps us up for this week. If you did enjoy my review, go ahead and hit that like button. You can come back every week if you hit the subscribe button right down over here. Click on that. We do several reviews, including Mr. Robot, Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. coming back at the end of the month, and then, of course, The Walking Dead, which returns October 23rd. So you can come back and check out reviews of all of those. What did you think of the episode? Any particular thoughts? Anything that I missed? Do you have a different point of view? Why don't you throw those down in the comments section below? We'll keep it a little dialogue going. Now you can always catch me on Twitter. I'm at Darren Jakes. Other than that, like I said, I think we're about all done. So, I'm D, and I am out of here. You guys take it easy. I'll catch you next week. Bye-bye.